So this is about 5 minutes of the first 10 minutes riding with Graham Jarvis in Spain last week. I just took out a lot of the waiting time. There was some time that we'd stop and wait. We had 10 riders total, 7 of us who made the trip, and then Graham, of course, and then Graham had a couple of his buddies out there, Luke and Mike, who kind of helped him, when we couldn't get through things. It was more than just Graham having to ride our bikes through stuff, so they were there as well. I learned a lot on this trip. Not only was riding in Spain awesome, and of course riding with Graham is always awesome, but I learned a lot too. I have to say I was pretty nervous, as I think everybody was. I think everybody, before we took off on this ride right here, and this was the first ride of the first day, literally our first 5-minute clip of our first 10 minutes of riding with Graham, and I think everybody was pretty nervous. Graham had all the bikes for us, and several of them were brand new. Had never been ridden before. The one I was on was, luckily for me, a TE300i, which is what I ride at home, so I was on a very familiar bike. I think most people were on somewhat familiar bikes. I think of the group I was the only one with an I, with a fuel-injected model, so everybody else was getting to ride a I for the first time. Like I said, I think everybody was pretty nervous. I know I was. Thinking, God, I'm riding with Graham now, don't screw anything up, I learned a lot, like I said, mostly about traction. This area of Spain, which is the southern part of Spain, while you think it looks like it has really good traction, I know why Graham trains here, because, man, some of the traction is not so great, as we found out several times throughout the 3 days of riding. But Graham did teach me something that I never knew. You'll see here in a minute. He'll tell me to go into first gear, and honestly, I bought my first dirt bike about almost 5 years ago, and they've always been W models, wide ratio transmissions, and I've never ever used first gear other than maybe try to get out of a creek or something, and trying to do like a pivot turn or something to get out of a creek. So Graham did a lot of first gear stuff and how to find traction. And that's something that I'm going to obviously take back, and anytime I ride, I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to that, because it works. Imagine that, something Graham told us actually works, huh? Here's the first creek that we dropped into. And as you'll see, I'll come across some rocks and kind of struggle a little bit to get through them, and Graham will ask me what gear I'm in, or tell me to get into first gear, and then I did that the rest of the trip and had a whole lot less problem with the rocks. Also didn't have as much trouble with the bike dying once I started using first gear for a lot of this stuff.
First gear, now it's in second. Anything slow coming down on that one. The brake seems like it's in a different place. Yeah, do you want to adjust it? We'll have a little ride round, then we can go back and adjust anything we want to change.
It's funny, at the beginning of the trip, nobody wanted to ride directly behind Graham. Everybody kind of stood around going, well, you go. No, you go. These are all going to be kind of short, down and dirty videos, just not a lot of processing or anything, just to kind of give you an idea of what it was like out there riding in Spain with Graham Jarvis. And it was definitely one of the best experiences of my life. I have no doubt about that. I didn't even bother the jet lag too much. And believe me, for me, jet lag played a big part of this, but it was worth every lost minute of sleep. So there it is, part 1.